Hello there everyone, Yom Tov, happy Wednesday to all, and welcome back to the Haven. And today is the Wednesday Folktales video for all of you, but today is a birthday request, and it is for one of our Haveners, Claire, and she's asked for this particular story to be read out for her mum, Mary, whose birthday was on the 14th. Obviously that was Monday. I had another video planned for that day. Couldn't do it then, so I apologise for not reading it out on your birthday, the day that it was, Mary. But as today is Wednesday and that's the day we do our folk tales, then I'm doing it for you today. So on behalf of myself and everyone who is in the Haven, I would like to wish you, Mary, a very happy birthday, and I do hope that you like the story that I read out for you, which is your choice, The Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen. Now Claire has told me that she's got many happy memories of you reading this out to her when she was a little girl, and that's why she wanted this one read out to you. I just wanted to have a quick aside to everybody who's looking at me today thinking, God, Hedda, you look rough. Yeah, I do. I haven't had the best night, I'll be very honest. And my face is still quite swollen. And with the best will in the world, I've tried what I can and I can't get my face to react. But I am trying out new lipstick, which is a Smashbox one, which gives you sort of an ombre kind of look. So it's sort of like purple and pink and another shade of purple. So that's the first time I've tried it, and it's to celebrate your birthday, Mary. So anyway, without further ado, I would now like to go on and read the story of The Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen. I hope you enjoy it, Mary, and I hope everyone else in the Haven enjoys it too. Please sit back and relax, and I'll begin to read. Most terribly cold it was. It snowed and was nearly quite dark and evening, the last evening of the year. In this cold and darkness there went along the street a poor little girl, bareheaded, with naked feet. When she left home she had slippers on, it is true, but what was the good of that? They were very large slippers. They belonged to her mother, and so large were they. The poor little thing lost them as she scuffled away across the street, because two carriages that rolled by dreadfully fast. One slipper was nowhere to be found. The other had been laid hold of by an urchin, and off he ran with it. He thought it would do capitally for a cradle when he some day or some other would have children himself. So the little maiden walked along with her tiny naked feet that were quite red and blue from the cold. She carried a quantity of matches in an old apron, and she held a bundle of them in her hand. Nobody had bought anything of her from the whole livelong day. No one had given her a single farthing. She crept along, trembling with cold and hunger, a very picture of sorrow, the poor little thing. The flakes of snow covered her long fair hair, which fell in beautiful curls around her neck. But of that, of course, she never once now thought. From all the windows the candles were gleaming, and it smelt so deliciously of roast goose. For you know, it was New Year's Eve. Yes, that's what she thought of. In a corner formed by two houses, of which one advanced more than the other, she seated herself down and cowered together. Her little feet she had drawn up close to her, but she grew colder and colder and to go home she did not dare venture, for she had not sold any matches and could not bring in a farthing of money. From her father she would certainly get blows, and at home it was cold too, for above her she only had a roof which through the wind whistled. Even through the coldest, largest of cracks was stopped up with straw and rags. Her little hands were almost numb with cold. Oh, a match might afford her a world of comfort, if she only dared take a single one out of the bundle, draw it against the wall and warm her fingers by it. She drew one out, ran it along the wall. Oh, how it blazed, how it burnt. It was a warm, bright flame, like a candle, as she held her hands over it. It was a wonderful night. It seemed really, to the little maiden, as though she was sitting before a large iron stove, with burnished brass feet and a brass ornament on the top. The fire burned with such blessed influence. It warmed so delightfully. The little girl had already stretched out her feet to warm them too. But the small flame went out. The stove vanished. She had only the remains of the burnt-out match in her hand. She rubbed another match against the wall. It burned brightly, and where the light fell on the wall, there was a wall that became transparent like a veil, so that she could see into the room. On the table was spread a snow-white tablecloth. Upon it was a splendid porcelain service, and the roast goose was steaming famously with its stuffing of apple and dried plums. And what was still more capital to behold was the goose hopped down from the dish, reeled about on the floor with a knife and fork in its breast, until it came to the poor little girl. And then the match went out, and nothing but the thick, cold, damp wall was left behind. She lit another match, and now there she was sitting under the most magnificent Christmas tree. It was still larger and more decorated than the one which she had seen through the glass door in the rich merchant's house. Thousands of lights were burning on the green branches, and the gaily coloured pictures, such as she had seen in shop windows, looked down upon her. The little maiden stretched out her hands towards them, and the match went out. The lights of the Christmas tree rose higher and higher, and she saw them now as stars in heaven. And one fell down and formed a long trail of fire. "Someone is just dead," said the little girl, for her old grandmother, the only person who had loved her and who was now no more, had told her that when a star falls, a soul ascends to God. She drew another match against the wall. It was again light, and in the lustre there stood the old grandmother, so bright and radiant, so mild, and with such an expression of love. "Grandmother," cried the little one, "oh, take me with you. You go away when the match burns out. You vanish like the warm stove, like the delicious roast goose, and like the magnificent Christmas tree." And she rubbed the whole bundle of matches quickly against the wall, for she wanted to be quite sure of keeping her grandmother nearer. And the matches gave such a brilliant light that it was brighter than at noonday. Never formerly had the grandmother been so beautiful and so tall. She took the little maiden on her arm, and both flew in brightness and joy so high, so very high, and then above was neither cold, nor hunger, nor anxiety. They both were with God. But in the corner, at the cold hour of dawn, sat the poor girl, with rosy cheeks and a smiling mouth, leaning against the wall, frozen to death on the last evening of the old year. Stiff and stark sat the child, there with her matches, of which one bundle had been burned. She wanted to warm herself, people said. No one had the slightest suspicion of what beautiful things she had seen. No one even dreamed of the splendour in which our grandmother and she had entered too, and the joys of the new year. And that ends the story of the little match girl. I hope you enjoyed the way that I read it to you, Mary. And I do wish you, and myself, and on behalf of all the Haveners here, we wish you the happiest of birthdays. And thank you for asking for this story to be read. It has its sad element, doesn't it? This story. Unfortunately, it's just as prevalent today as it was when it was written. And it makes me wonder, how far have we actually come to helping those less fortunate than ourselves? And it is still true today. Children are sent out to work far too young. And if they don't take enough money home, one or both of the parents will beat them. It can be such a wonderful world, and yet it can also be an incredibly cruel world. And if there's one thing that I would like to ask, is that, Mary, if you get the opportunity, please would you consider buying a hot drink for a homeless person today? Because the weather's on the turn. It's not particularly nice. It's getting colder. And I'm sure that, anybody who lives on the streets would welcome a hot drink today. So maybe if you could do that, that's what I call a mitzvah, a good deed. If all of us at some point this week could do that, reach out to someone, give them a blanket, give them a warm jumper. You don't have to give them money. If you honestly fear that they will use that money to buy drugs, don't give it. Give them something more practical in return, like a sandwich, a pie, a hot drink, or even a bottle of water. Or you can arrange to pay someone to give them a roof over their heads for the night. You don't have to hand them money. If they want a packet of cigarettes, and if you can afford to either give them a few out your own box, as I've done before. If you can't afford to buy them a full packet, give them half a dozen out your own box. Buy them a cheap lighter, because they make them last. But I think that if anything can be done to make someone's day a little better, then we should try and do that. And even if you're not anywhere near beside anyone homeless, if you could visit a neighbour who doesn't see anybody and make them a cup of tea and spend half an hour with them, give them a biscuit, ask them how they are, see they're warm enough, have they got stuff in for a hot meal? And that doesn't cost anything but time. And it's possible you can do that. But nobody can ever make anybody do anything that they want to. I'm not trying to prick anybody's conscience. It's not about that. It's about looking at the world for how it is and how we can get so wrapped up in ourselves that we do end up forgetting the bigger picture. And if it's possible to do something, even just something as simple as going through your clothes and finding stuff that you don't wear anymore, and whether it's a homeless man or a homeless girl, if you can give them a clean change of clothes so they can throw out their old stuff, and you'll be amazed how much it does for their self-esteem, and it'll do so much for your own. Because the act of giving does make you feel good, and it can make you feel better about yourself. And I must admit, when I think about stories like the little match girl, it does always put me in mind of the homeless. It always has. And I get frustrated because there's so much that I can't do to help them. And the ones I want to help are the likes of the young kids who have been thrown out by a step-parent. I don't get that. I've never got that. Or the ones who are thrown out because of their sexuality. Or the ones who are thrown out because they have a problem with their mental health. The ones that really do make me angry are the soldiers who come home. And it's funny how they're good enough to fight for their country, but they're not good enough to find a roof for. And they end up on the streets through no fault of their own. I didn't intend this to turn out to being a lecture. I do apologise. It wasn't what I'd intended. It's funny, I'll tell you the other story that always reminds me of, I don't know whether it's just because it's Hans Christian Andersen, but the other story that I do remember is the one about the fir tree. It's a much more Christmassy story. But remember the pride of the fir tree puffing itself out, wanting to find out what was happening and why other trees were being chopped down before it and where were they going. And look, they'd grown so much taller. Why were shorter trees going before that one? And then one day it gets cut down. And it's thinking, well, I don't know what the future's got in store for me. And where is it going? Where's my life going to? And then it finds out that it's going to be a decorated tree, you know, in a home. And, you know, it takes great pride in being covered in lit candles and what have you. And all the little things, all the little Christmas tree decorations. And it's all puffed up with pride and thinks it's marvellous. And then one day, the tree's stripped bare and it's dumped in the loft and forgotten. And it can't understand why it's not being fussed over the way it was before. And then it gets taken out the loft and chopped up for firewood. And then it realises that it was much better off in the forest where it was. I've always taken that to be a dream of, be careful what you wish for, because you never know, it may come true and it might not be what you want. And be happy with what you have. I don't know what you think of that, but that's what I took the little fir tree to mean. Be happy with what you have. Be grateful. You look at what you've got around you, and you can compare it to what other people don't have, and then you realise just how lucky you really are. And, be careful what you wish for. Because it does have a funny way of coming true, but it's not quite exactly what you'd envisioned, is it? Well, we've had flashes of sunlight through my kitchen window today, but it's after 2:30, and it's, within an hour it'll be starting to get dark, because this is the month that the clocks fall back. We got an extra hour in bed, but cold mornings, cold nights, don't like them. I think I was actually I was born to live in the Seychelles or the Bahamas or somewhere like that, because I can think of nothing better than having my feet in sort of warm sea water, just off a white sandy beach. They've got one similar to that in Greece, and you can the sea, you can see right down to the bottom, and everything's so crystal clear. You can just see sand. It's absolutely beautiful, and the water's not cold when you get into it. It's just that sort of a lukewarm, and it's so clear like crystal. It's beautiful. But I was born in a blizzard, so what does that tell you? And I hate snow. I know a lot of people love snow, but I'm afraid I'm not, I'm not a huge fan. I mean, I've made snowmen before. I don't mind walking in snow when it's newly fallen, when there's little chance of slipping. Once it turns to ice, though, that's when I want to hibernate. I don't want to be outside in that. Anyway, that's all I have for you today, my friends. I'm sorry that the video is shorter than usual, but I am feeling particularly tired today. So, it sort of comes on the heels of video Monday, then the impromptu video yesterday that I didn't plan on making, but it had to be done. And then birthday video today. So I am going to desperately need the rest of today and tomorrow. And I do apologise for not catching up with all the comments yet. I'll be doing that later on today. And then tomorrow, oh look, here's the sunshine again. That's nice. Lovely to end with a bit of sunshine at the end of Mary's video. So I will be taking a much needed day off tomorrow. Anyway, thank you all again very much for being here. Thank you very much for watching. I do wish Mary again a very happy birthday. And I hope all of you are having the best day you can. I love you all. I'll see the paranormal crew on Friday. And the rest of you very, very soon. In fact, Monday. And don't forget, Monday is your favourite movies list. And you know what? It doesn't have to be 20. Just put your favourite movies down. And then we're going to talk about why. Okay. Bye for now, guys. Take care.